will end special operation in Ukraine when NATO threat is removed, says Russia.
Here's a summary of the article.
Russia will end its special military operation in Ukraine when its tasks are fulfilled, said Alexei Polishchuk, the director of the Second Department for Commonwealth of Independent States under Russia's foreign ministry. In an interview with Russian news agency TASS, he said that these tasks include protection of the people of Donbas, denazification of Ukraine and elimination of threats to Russia from NATO countries. The diplomat said, the special military operation will end when its tasks are fulfilled. Among them are the protection of the peaceful population of Donbas, demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, as well as the elimination of threats to Russia coming from the Ukrainian territory due to its capturing by NATO countries. The special operation is running as planned, he added. Ukraine-Russia war. Russian President Vladimir Putin declared war on Ukraine on February 24. Earlier this week, Russia launched the second phase of its military operation, which is focused on the eastern regions and aimed at complete liberation of Donbas. More than 5 million people have fled the country since the war began and several, including civilians, have been killed. In an exclusive interview with India Today, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said earlier this week that the Ukraine situation was a result of the West's desire to rule the world.
This post received a score of 9,700, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Nobody moves goalposts like Gaston. I mean Putin.
New one.
Fights like Gaston.
Loses tanks like Gaston.
Comes to town and runs out of petrol like Gaston.
As a world power, yes, I'm incinerating.
No one shoots kids like Gaston.
Loses ships like Gaston.
No one's world standing dips quite as bad as Gaston's.
My soldiers are capitulating.
So, it was never about Nazis.
And it was never about ending.
Weird that now they only want the areas with gas reserves?
They have to salvage something from this fuck-up of an invasion. They keep scaling back their demands and goals. I wouldn't be surprised that if the battle for Donbas goes poorly for them, they will say that their ultimate goal was always just to occupy the Donbas region and no further, and that everything was going according to plan.
Guys, it was actually our goal to lose 500 plus tanks and sustain more casualties and gain 5 little towns. The mighty Russian military wins again.
Imagine what the cost of retrofitting all these Cold War-era tanks would have been for the Russian people. This method is much better. We don't even need to dispose of the tanks. Just put them in Ukraine and wait for boom. Or a farmer.
Ukraine is really just the front yard they leave all their junkers in.
Ukraine already said NATO is off the table. What are they still doing in Ukraine then? Guess that everything that comes before says Russia is just bullshit.
If Ukraine manages to kick Russia's ass out and is invited to join NATO, they will. Russia knows this.
Well, yeah, why should Ukraine have to adhere religiously to every promise they make while Russia smashes agreements left and right?
There was never promise not to join NATO, that's the point. If Russia agrees to ceasefire and pull out of troops, Ukraine can agree on not joining NATO. However, since Russia does not agree to ceasefire, Ukraine is not obliged to not join NATO.
Russia had already agreed to not attack them in exchange for Ukraine dismantling their nuclear program. So any agreement with Russia is worth less than jack shit.
Or Putin dies, whichever happens first.
What do you imagine comes after Putin? Civil war, very possibly.
The NATO threat to Russia has never been stronger. They've turned a situation where even fairly hawkish people in the West were questioning the point of NATO and where NATO had effectively ceased to be an anti-Russian organization into one where everyone has a raging hard-on for NATO and it is explicitly a hedge against Russian ambitions. This has been a total geopolitical disaster for Russia.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.